Japan has just voted in its first ever female prime minister, dubbed the country's Iron Lady. Her name is Sanae Takaichi. She's said to be an admirer of Margaret Thatcher, with Donald Trump describing her as a highly respected person of great wisdom. But it did get us thinking, do women make better political leaders? It took a long time before a woman made it to the top job. July 1960. That's when that happened, when the nation of Ceylon, now called Sri Lanka, saw the world's first female prime minister sworn in. And since then, more than a third of the world's countries have been led by a woman. We've had three of our own, of course: Margaret Thatcher, Theresa May, and the rather short-lived Liz Truss. Blink and you would have missed her, and lots of people wish they had, of course. Why don't we start with Cosmo, because he's the only man on the panel. So, are women better political leaders than men?
Well, you'd have to ask yourself, why would a woman be a better political leader than a man? Are you saying that women have some sort of emotional empathy or have some other innate female quality that makes them better than men?
Yes.
So really, what you're saying is that women aren't subjected to the same logic, the same use of principles, the same political philosophy. Surely it's what you believe and advocate that makes you a great politician, not some sort of mysterious female quality of sensitivity and emotional empathy. So I think it's nonsense, the idea of women being better. And what is a better leader anyway? Lynn Truss?
Let's ask Paula. I don't think she agrees with you, Cosmo. What do you think? Are women better leaders than men?
Well, statistically, yes.
What does that mean?
And I'll give you, I'll bore you with them in a moment. Oh. And research tells us that in terms of diplomacy, women are better. So we have the ability, the patience, the agility.
Well, hang on a minute. Wait a second. We all remember Theresa May and that Brexit business where she could never get it over the line. She just could not get it over. She kept on coming back saying a hard Brexit, a soft Brexit,
yes.
A middle Brexit.
Yes.
Yes. Even if it's terrible, we'll still do it. She never did it at all.
Yeah. Well, to be fair,
how much diplomacy was she
Mrs. Thatcher over Brussels, when she would just, no. And that was it. That was diplomacy.
I mean, and as for Liz Truss, I mean, lots of people are still bemoaning and bewailing.
There's always the exception to the rule, Vanessa.
Yes,
There's always the exception to the rule.
So
the good rule is we've got 29 countries at the moment that are led by women. We've got 166 that are led by men. Of the 29 that are led by women, there is no warfare in those countries. None whatsoever. And as I said, we do know from research that in terms of women acting as mediators, women acting as negotiators in conflict zones, that the outcomes are longer lasting and better in terms of those conflicts.
OK, let's ask Janet about this, because
that's
Cosmo, I think, is querying this idea that there's some indefinable feminine intuition or multitasking ability or empathy or whatever it is that means that women could possibly be better leaders. But you might think it just exists and that's that.
Well, to complicate things further, of course, women are having to be leaders in a male-dominated world. So that means they're often held to account against male leaders who have not been great. And the pictures of any sort of business conference recently, any sort of world gathering, it is men. You see a woman occasionally, she's presumably holding someone's pencil. They are not in positions of power because they haven't been allowed to be. And the role models that they've had over the years are woefully lacking in this country. I mean, I think the last decent Prime Minister was probably Birgit Nyborg in Borgen, and she's a fictitious character. And even then we had to have a lot about her private life. I do think that we are really hampered by the fact that women cannot get where they need to be because of childcare, because of hours in Parliament.
Let's go straight to Nick in London. Nick, female leaders are better, do you think?
Yes, good afternoon. Yes. I think Margaret Thatcher is a great example for this country.
And do you think that the fact that you think she was a great leader was based on the fact that she was a woman, or just her personality type and what you think she achieved here?
No, she was my chancellor. I did my bar and all that. And she was our chancellor, Ginny. And I tell you, she actually was an example after Her Majesty the Queen for being a woman, being so strong, moral compass, being strength, being able to do and say and focus on things which are very important as leaders.
I mean,
and I think
I just interrupt you for a second, Nick, because Janet was making a point during the break about Margaret Thatcher as a leader.
She did absolutely nothing for women in her time in Parliament. And actually, interestingly, observationally, being woman was the least thing about her. You know, her attitude to life was, if you like, masculine. And actually, I think the thing that women leaders get right is what women get right in life anyway, is that we tend to get further and faster in a conversation. You know, you can be having a conversation with somebody, by the end of it, you know really a lot about them, whereas a man might just generally know that somebody is upright and getting about the world. But I don't think she added anything to the discourse about female leaders. I think she added to the discourse of leadership, but that's a very different thing.
But you might say, Paula, that that's perfection, isn't it? If you're a female leader, but it doesn't matter that you're female, that's the best kind of female leader.
Not sadly in this patriarchal world, Vanessa. I wish it was. But the reality is, we are in this patriarchal world. We are judged on the basis of how strong we are and, you know, whether we would take any nonsense or not, whether we are beholden to commerce, to the market, instead of us, for example, in India being concerned about fresh water for the children, where we've seen female Indian leaders see a 62% rise in fresh water contingencies being dealt with there. Or, for example, if we were in a country where we cared about maternity leave, and we've seen that in our Scandinavian countries, where, is it in Iceland, where we have a female leadership in Iceland. So I wish in a perfect world that gender didn't matter, because we know that, seriously, it doesn't, right? But unfortunately, on the political spectrum, it does matter because it impacts us.
But hold on, you can't have it both ways. You can't say it's great that, you know, women make better leaders, then point to Mrs. Thatcher, who embodies what are traditionally considered very masculine virtues of a toughness, aggressiveness, never stepping down, confrontational, adversarial. So, you know, what's the point of having a woman who just acts like a man in the end? It's about policy and principles.
Because those are 50% of the qualities you can bring to leadership. And she was inviting every single woman to suppress the others.
Yeah,
about being a bit softer.
Let's bring in Anna-Marie in Lincolnshire, see what she thinks. Anna-Marie, how do you feel about this one? Female leaders better than male?
No, I think we're brought up now, so it should be equal opportunities. So I don't think it should be better with either a woman or a man. I think as long as they're qualified to do the job and they listen to the people, that's where it counts.
All right, but when you look at the leaders that you've seen in history, those who've been in power while you've been an adult, do you see women and men on a par, just some are good and some are bad? Or do you think women have the edge because they've got more intuition, more empathy, able to multitask? I mean, Jacinda Ardern gave birth while she was in office, didn't she? Imagine, you know, you're running the country, you're breastfeeding, you're making soup, you're knitting a jumper, you're doing all those things and you're a woman, you don't think twice about it. That's just how we roll. Anna-Marie, what do you think of the leaders you've already seen and witnessed?
Well, I reckon it's my best Prime Minister. I wasn't probably born when he was in office, but I think looking back, I think Winston Churchill was the best Prime Minister that we could have had, and I think a lot of people could take notes from him.
All right, good point. Thank you very much. Let's talk to Patrick in County Down. Patrick, you're prepared to come on the television and say women make better leaders than men.
Hi, Vanessa. Thanks for having me. Well,
Pleasure.
here we had a conflict for over 30 years, and we now have a First Minister, Michelle O'Neill from Sinn Féin, and a Deputy First Minister, Emma Little-Pengelly from the Democratic Unionist Party, which over the years were miles and miles apart. If you had said to me 30, 40 years ago that we'd have such a government here, I would have laughed at you. Yeah. So I have to say that I think both women bring leadership to
a very problematic situation that's been rolling on for years and years. Absolutely. And what do you think is the sort of superpower of the First Minister? What do you see her doing that her predecessors didn't do? What can you see in her?
Well, basically, both of them push out of the stranglehold of and hamstrings of their parties and traditions over the years to stretch out which to both communities, which means a lot, basically in this time of craziness throughout the world.
And also there's been a hell of a lot of stalemate as well, hasn't there? So they've been able, you say, to look in some other way, to bring a different perspective, to kind of shift the whole paradigm and move it along a bit, which is incredible. And I'm so pleased that you are seeing progress in your troubled location. It's brilliant to hear that. And thank you for ringing, Patrick. A real pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for all your calls on that one.